As I continued my travels through the US, I noticed that the bad weather seemed to follow me. I was now in the state of South Dakota. My original intention was to follow the Missouri River upstream, but a bad storm front forced me to veer off course and seek shelter in the Southwest Hills. This took me to Badlands National Park. The good news is that I beat the storm and arrived in sunlight. Just before the park gate, there's a free camping spot with a great view of the edge of a cliff. I'd actually used the same spot in my Red Rainbow video, so was quite familiar with the area. Right beside the trailer were some bighorn sheep feasting on spring grass. They seemed quite comfortable with me, and I think I know why. Apparently, these were Canadian bighorns, imported from Alberta and reintroduced to the park. Shame they had to wear those radio collars though. I hope it's not a requirement for all Canadians here. The next morning I entered the park gate blanketed by rain and fog. The speck on the horizon is a bison. Yes, Mother Nature caught up with me again, although I did fool her for a few hours. I was intrigued by the sign that said "Viewpoint ahead," so pulled over to check it out. To no one's surprise, the view was missing one thing: the view. Through the mist, I did see my Canadian friend with the radio head, showing what a hardy bunch those north of the 49th parallel can be. I don't think the herd even noticed it was raining. Perfect weather for a hike and a jog. One last look back, and then they were gone. The Badlands are famous for their herds of bison, but through the fog I could only spot two. As the day wore on, it seemed the rain was never going to stop, and the dirt roads started to get real slippery. It was at that point it occurred to me, perhaps I didn't pick a good camping spot after all. Well, I may have got myself into a bit of a jam here. Well, it's not really jam, it's mud, because when I came into this spot, it was dry, but now there's a rainstorm. It's been raining for an entire day. It's going to rain for another 2 or 3 days. And I did a test after I took the trailer off and I tried to get out with my Jeep, and look at the mud. The treads do absolutely nothing in this mud. It's just a slippery mass. I'm not sure I can get out. The only thing I think I can do, and I can at least try, is go across the grass. And the road that I came in is all slippery mud. But the biggest challenge is going to be at the end, because it goes right up. And if I don't have enough momentum and it starts sliding, it's going to be a nasty mess. So this is going to be a real challenge. Water-saturated soil on a sloping cliff, bad camping idea. Area across the street that was perfectly flat and accessible, much better idea. I just had to get there. Oh boy. I'm not looking forward to this, but here we go. If I can even move. Oh, got a hill to get up here. Oh, it's so foggy. Oh, I know there's a big bump here. Bad for the trailer. Come on, come on, come on, you can do it. Ow. This is really bad. Can't see a thing. It's so foggy. More ruts. Okay, I gotta get into the mud. I'm not gonna like this, but that's all I can do. Oh, crap. Starting to slide. Come on. Don't get stuck. Okay, final bit. Hope there's no cars coming, so I gotta make a run. Ah! Oh. Oh, I made it. Now I was camped in a safe location, I could do some further exploring of the park. It was a great relief when the fog finally cleared, as these Badlands are known for the dramatic landscapes. It's truly amazing how unique and diverse the views are as you drive across the valley through multiple terrains. One section is razor-sharp spires and jagged edges in monochrome tones, seeming void of any life. But drive a few more miles and you'll encounter lush, fertile grasslands surrounded by smooth, contoured hills. All candy striped in reds, greens, blues, and gold. Upon returning to the upper levels, I found my Canadian contingent of bighorns just chilling out on the rocks. Perhaps they were listening to the tunes on that fancy radio equipment they wore around their neck. I sure hope they weren't listening to Nickelback. Well, I'm trying to be optimistic, but this constant rain is wearing me thin. I've never had so much rain on a trip as I have on this one. And it doesn't seem like there's going to be any end in sight for a couple of days, but it really puts a damper on a trip when you just don't see the sun at all. Everything is wet. I'm always wet. I guess I should be used to it, but a nice little bit of warmth and sunshine wouldn't hurt, you know what I mean? When it's like this, I'm very limited to what I can photograph or even go on a trail because it's muddy and slippery. And even getting around with the vehicle is tough because the roads are slippery, and places like this, it's hard. I can get stuck very easily, so I can't take pictures. And it's cold. Sometimes when you're out camping and traveling, it is like this, but you kind of hope it would balance out eventually. I like to be the optimist, but this time it's just not going to happen. All weather reports stated there was no end in sight, and those ominous clouds of doom had settled over South Dakota. North Dakota, however, was in the clear. So I had to make a decision. Do I ride out the storm in hopes it gets better, or drive 5 hours north to the other side of the front? It was a no-brainer. North Dakota's most famous badland is the Theodore Roosevelt National Park. It's actually two parks, the popular south section and the more obscure north section. If you want to avoid the crowds and generators, I highly recommend the north unit. Perhaps a little more subtle than the Badlands of the South, North Teddy still has all the colors and textures of those eroded cliffs and valleys you'd expect. And as far as wildlife goes, this park has few rivals, especially if you like the larger mammals. There's no boondocking or hookups, but I found camping fees were quite reasonable, so I set up my trailer. Within minutes, I had my first visitor. Well, if you like to get up close and personal to a bison, this is the place to do it. Experiencing the free-roaming bison is a guarantee to any visitor. As a matter of fact, you have to be very careful to avoid them. Both majestic and awe-inspiring, a word of caution. Bison can be quite aggressive and protective. Always keep your distance from the herd. Sometimes Mother Nature, when she's in a really bad mood, can throw awful weather at you for days and days. But when she's in a good mood and she gives you a day like this, all is forgiven. Thanks, Mom. Especially when it's risotto, peas, and mushrooms day. No longer worrying about the weather, my mind relaxed and my imagination returned. This eroded rock reminded me of a child hugging his dog. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as a special treat, I'm going to close with the uninterrupted sounds of the bison enjoying dusk on the Little Missouri River. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more.